I have attained absolute strength. You will pay for your crimes against bad backstories. Writers of Dragonball Super. I mean, seriously, I can't make it any worse, right? Hey guys, MasakoX here. Now, the character Jiren is one of those guys in the show that is seen as very mixed. On the surface, he is the absolute perfect character for the Western audience. Much like Broly, there is no nuance, nor is there really any complicated emotional baggage going with it. No. This guy is a walking pile of muscle who can hit things really hard. Not like we're insufficient with that already. Either way, the subject of Jiren has been around on the channel for years now, and a few videos as well dedicated to why this guy isn't so great, despite his powerful strength and role as the antithesis of Goku being the bad guy of the Tournament of Power, but he's not a bad guy. This was the thing. There was no real villain of the arc. Granted, I find the idea of Jiren's design pretty cute, in that he is meant to resemble the stereotypical grey alien character, only subverted to be buff instead of scrawny. I'm not bothered about that side of him. That being said, his personality isn't all that's cracked up to be. That's where things go wrong. The manga was better than the anime in terms of building up Jiren and allowing him to actually explain himself his actions more, but it still suffered with the notion that he is a wall of meat in red and black spandex. Well, not today, Belmod, not today. Today, I want to do a thought experiment in the style of a what if. Well, who am I kidding? It's actually a what if. What if we gave Jiren a good backstory and something that would explain why he is the way he is? We're not going to be changing his personality at the end point, what we see in Super, beyond recognition. That's not the objective of this one shot. What we want to do today is to get us to the start of the Tournament of Power in a much more detailed manner. A backstory which would make us understand Jiren more, maybe even empathize with him. And come episode 127, when this flashback occurs, we could then all go, you know what, I actually get him now. Then over time, we would be able to look back at Jiren and appreciate him more in the years that would follow, instead of us just sort of forgetting about it or even resenting it. He would become more memorable, other than for being the person that was going up against Ultra Instinct Goku twice. Now, the initial skeleton of this story is something that I talked about in a video I did a while back called How Do You Solve a Problem Like Jiren? In that video, I talked about Jiren's power being the bane of his existence, and much like how we feel about the Pillar Men from JoJo, maybe we could do something similar with that in a way. But we'll get to that in a second. Before then, let's remind ourselves of the initial premise behind Jiren's current situation. Don't worry, as you know from the anime, this will not take long at all. Jiren was out playing one day and then came back to find his parents, who were felled by a nondescript demon. Then more of his friends and then teacher succumbed as well. So he trained a lot. That's it. I won't go on about the whole Batman comparison anymore, that's been done so many times. But instead of whinging about this some more, I shall now offer up us a better timeline or scenario, which is something that I initially expected and something that could work as a curious subplot and ironic quandary for Jiren to deal with his place in the Pride Troopers. So, we begin with our story on Jiren's homeworld. I don't think that it had a name or anything like that. We only had it for 2 minutes or so, the backstory, but that's besides the point. The young grey lad was quite the happy individual as a youngling, but despite this, he wasn't exactly the most spectacular individual. He was quite forgettable. He was the runt of his family, as well as his friends, and subject to bullying. Pretty much most people in his town deemed him a weakling, but inoffensive. He decided to change all of that though. So, instead of us getting Gichin, his master in the future, the way we did, after the fact that his parents were lost, he is introduced to us now, when Jiren is at his lowest ebb. The master had noticed the young boy a lot lately. The young boy had been trying to increase his power through performing chores for the townsfolk, but with little success, other than a maybe more spare change in his pocket, perhaps. One day, Jiren plucked up the courage to actually approach Gichin, who was well known for being a noble master as well as his other students, which didn't go so well. He didn't even get in the door before being accosted by some of the master's grunts.
What do you think you're doing here, twerp? You think you can fight alongside us, the strongest in town? In your dreams?
They shoved him into the side of the dojo, causing considerable pain to Jiren's meek frame, and it contorts into a heap on the ground. The two pupils of Gichin's are not finished yet, and they intend to make this youngling regret even ever coming here. But before they can do so and finish him off, One other grey alien creature similar to Jiren, with a stronger jaw, much stronger jaw, scares the grunts away. He was older, maybe by several years, but to Jiren though, he looked so cool. He introduces himself as Ubo, a pun on the term kitchen hob or hobu if you want to use Romaji. Ubo, Jiren, similarities. He takes Jiren inside and shows him around the dojo, which Jiren is amazed by. He finally got inside. The atmosphere was so intense and steeped with legend and power, just like he thought it would be. He could feel the strength increasing inside of his body just breathing the air inside of here. Gichin spots Ubo and Jiren and greets the youngling.
I knew you would show up, young one.
You did? How?
Absolute conviction in my beliefs. I deal only in absolutes. That is how we find strength here.
Jiren nods enthusiastically, taking in this information like a sponge.
Right. Can you teach me to be as strong as those guys who attacked me?
Gichin looks concerned.
Attacked you? Who would do such a thing?
Ubo explains what happened just now, and the master sighs. He knows exactly who did it. Clearly those two did not believe in absolute justice and honor. Safe to say, Jiren never saw them again. Man, Gichin was thorough. In time, Gichin's calm and noble nature provided Jiren much assurance in himself, and in further time, he became stronger and stronger, gaining more and more confidence. No longer was he the town runt. He and Ubo became the best of friends despite their gap in age. Ubo saw Jiren as himself when he first joined the school, but all wasn't so well. Jiren's parents weren't really keen in his growing brashness. They felt like they were losing their son. The charming, lovable boy, he may have been meek, but he was nice. That was being lost to time. Yeah, sure, they were pleased to see him happy and gaining more and more self-worth, but they weren't also keen in his sometimes zealous attitude about things concerning absolute strength. They didn't want him spouting rhetoric. It always had to be about absolutes, but he didn't quite understand what it meant. He was too young for that. Then there were the violent outbursts that occurred. Whenever they would try to reason with him about this fact, he would lash out with considerable force, almost injuring his parents. Soon, Jiren went from one extreme to another, going from the town's runt to the town's freakish strongman. For a while, things were okay, and Jiren sort of embraced the limelight and feeling of being loved by the people of his community. But it didn't really occur to him that they only liked him for his power, and they only probably liked him because they didn't want to be on his bad side. Being on his bad side would be detrimental to them. It didn't become clear to Gichin until a few years later. One day, the master had to go away to scout for potential new pupils in a neighboring district. He had entrusted the role of acting master to Ubo instead of Jiren, to which the young man took great exception to.
But master, haven't you seen the progress I have made in such a short space of time? I'm more than qualified to teach the idea of absolute strength. Why should Ubo get it?
Ubo took great exception to this.
Remember your place, friend. I was here before you, and for now, I am still stronger than you.
Jiren knew that wasn't true. Jiren had far greater potential than Ubo. He just hadn't discovered it yet. The right situation hadn't presented itself. It would when he wasn't there to see it. The animosity between the two grew and grew over the days that followed, and it all came to a head one day when he attacked Ubo a little too hard for the latter's liking during one sparring session, all sent by Gichin in the hope that they would actually get a good master. Jiren had landed a blow so strong it caused the ribs of Ubo to shatter, leaving his role model in considerable pain. Jiren tried to comfort him, but Ubo was having none of it.
Go home! You're a loose cannon, Jiren! Be gone!
With the rest of the candidates tending to their master and looking at Jiren in horror, the young man had a flashback to those two bullies when he first joined this dojo. Had he become them without knowing it? Was he not showing absolute justice and honor? He wept as he ran home, and his parents had no idea what they were in for. Jiren was almost inconsolable with the idea that his absolute strength and measure was flawed, that it wasn't resolute, corrupted even. His mother and father did try to console him as best as they could with words that parents usually exhibit, but it was no use. It was just making Jiren feel even worse. He felt he couldn't handle these emotions himself. He felt worthless, and that led to him panicking. He could feel the well of power inside of him that he thought was under control collapse all of a sudden. With a mighty roar, Jiren's eyes widened and his body began to spark. Before he knew it, the surrounding area exploded. This wasn't just a small thing like Vegeta did in the Saiyan saga. This was catastrophic. Everything was destroyed. When the dust cleared, Jiren was the only thing left standing, for as far as he could see, there was not a single trace of anyone or anything. Not his parents, not his home, not the neighbouring houses. Nothing. Clarity descended upon him, and he rushed to the dojo, miles away, only to find a pile of rubble and scattered remains. That was how effective this was. This went for several miles. The only thing that was moving was the injured Ubo, who was clambering about the wreckage, looking worse for wear himself, trying to find any survivors. Jiren rushed over to help, to which his friend was grateful for. Ubo had no idea that that explosion came from Jiren, the man standing before him. He had no idea. The only person who did was miles away and approaching fast. To Ubo right now, he was grateful that Jiren was here, and his ignorance was helpful. Ubo was dying, and Jiren was the only person who could comfort him in his final moments.
I'm sorry, Jiren. I shouldn't have been so callous. You should have been the master, not me.
No, you don't understand. This is my fault!
No, it was mine. Thank you for being here. Now I must rest. This pain is finally easing.
He was gone. Jiren broke down. He let out a mighty primal wail, but this time there was no more power to erupt. He was spent. It was just as well, but this was just the beginning. Gichin arrived minutes later to see Jiren clutching his best friend's body. Gichin looked serious.
I shouldn't have left. You clearly were not ready to be left alone. I knew you were a powder keg not long after I took you in. I just never thought that you of all people would be so weak-minded. But it makes no difference. We must go. There is nothing for us here but ash and loss.
Gichin solemnly picked up his belongings again and walked out of the town, with Jiren following, unsure what was going on. He would learn soon enough, though. As the pair left the decimated settlement, a cloaked figure with red eyes and white skin observed. He's perfect. Gichin and Jiren trained harder than they had ever done before, the master taking his pupil much more seriously this time. He didn't blame Jiren exactly. This was his fault too for being careless and leaving him unoccupied. As they trained, the cloaked figure observed more and more, taking in what he was witnessing. Jiren's growing physique and focused power. It was mesmerizing to witness and feel. Gichin had learnt to forgive Jiren, but he couldn't forget the feelings of thousands of lives being extinguished so suddenly. He had never felt anything like it, nor would he ever again. He was training the biggest threat this world had ever seen. He better not screw it up, but he didn't. In the next 20 years, Jiren had become a beaming beacon of absolute strength, getting the full scope of Gichin's training and teachings, and understanding it better than anyone had ever done. He was the pinnacle of power to which Gichin was proud of and could now trust. He felt in his mind that he had averted danger to this planet in Jiren exploding again. He wouldn't be doing that. He had done the world a good service, but he wouldn't live to see the fruits of his labours. One day, Jiren and Gichin were called to a neighbouring village who were apparently suffering from an attack by an unknown force. Together, with some of the local mercenaries to act as backup, the pair led the way to stop this foe, whatever it was. When they got there though, nothing had happened. The town was peaceful. Nothing had been damaged. Everyone was going about their business. There wasn't even a toppled-over pot plant. It was quiet. Too quiet.
I don't like this. Jiren, see if you can sense anything lying in wait. If they're thinking that they can ambush us, they're in for a rude awakening. Yes, master.
Suddenly, Jiren could hear a voice behind him. Darkness surrounded his peripheral vision. The only constant going was this voice. My, you are quite the strong individual.
Who's there? Show yourself!
I would rather not. I'm not much to look at, and my visage is not the purpose of my visitation. I sense great power in you, something that might be of use to me. I am inviting you, Jiren, to join my cause, to bring great justice and admiration to the universe. Sounds pretty good, eh?
Never! What kind of cause of great justice needs to hide behind darkness and veiled illusion?
Feisty. I like that. I know you deal only in absolutes, but I think you will find that this offer is absolutely something you cannot refuse.
What makes you suspect that?
The darkness fades, with the words echoing. You're all out of options. Jiren's eyes are left horror-struck. Everyone was dead, including Gichin. How? Jiren falls to the floor. He hadn't even had a chance to counter. In just a few seconds, everything he knew about was stripped away from him. Again! The figure reappears. Does that make things easier for you? Jiren growls with rage, and he can feel the energy bubbling up again quickly. He could not stop this. He lashes out at the figure, and while his strikes are mighty enough to fell any mortal on this planet, it doesn't seem to be doing much against this guy. What was this monstrosity? It wasn't fighting back though, just dodging every single move. Absolutely pointless. You cannot stop this. Just accept your fate and join. Ah! Suddenly, a giant fist pounds the figure into the dust, and when the dust ball clears, it was gone. There was no sign of the figure. Jiren turns to see a slightly younger Toppo standing next to him.
Are you all right, young lad? You looked like you needed help. I saw what happened to your friends just now, but I was unable to assist, being struggling with my own quandary. What happened to your friends was unjust. It should never have happened.
Just? Toppo bows his head.
Indeed. I believe in true justice for all. Is there any way that I can help you, young man?
Jiren is left processing what just happened. What did happen? Had he killed these people again like before? He didn't know. But this man had some kind of clue.
The name's Toppo, and I shall answer any questions you may have, young man. Now, come with me.
Jiren, left bemused, follows, not sure what to think. In the years that followed, Toppo took Jiren under his wing, and in time, introduced him to the Pride Troopers, a group that Jiren could see the merits in, and it gave him some kind of focus. He felt more at ease, and his power was more in control. Toppo took great pride in seeing him flourish, but he was still somewhat aloof with most Jiren. He still didn't quite trust himself fully, thinking that he would erupt again, just like what happened with Gichin, just like what happened with his parents. But this is something he chose not to share with Toppo exactly, in case he succumbed to it like his family. Was Jiren cursed? This was why he was so distant to those other than Toppo. So what do you guys think? Do you feel that this backstory is better than what we got? Do you think this could lead to some potential revelations in the future based on what I have inferred? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. And I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!